Cruz, you coming to... Imagine I just slammed on the brakes or sped up so fast. This setup is wobbly. You coming down to Texas was like a huge decision. Like a really big decision. Like, life-changing. Nothing will ever be the same decision. How do you lean on the Lord in a big decision like this?
Oh, that's a good question, dude.
I mean, other than casting lots. You don't do that?
Gambling?
Gambling with the Lord?
I think, like, one of the biggest things that God really comforted me with this decision was, that I think a lot of people are, like, they feel prompted, and they feel like they have to make a decision, like, right then. Mm-hmm. And so it's like they get super impatient with their decisions. But I think that's something that, like, I felt that God was calling me to do, was to be, like, super patient, to, like, think about this before telling anyone, and to really just, like, bring it to Him first and foremost, you know. Before, like, telling people and getting overwhelmed with, like, different people's, like, feedback or opinions or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, I took a month and just prayed about it, and, you know, obviously you knew, like, that I was thinking about it and, like, talked about it with you, because, I mean, you're the one who, like, created this whole idea. But yeah, I just prayed about it for a while, and then like, I felt like this is where, like, I was called, and so, like, I wanted this to be God's decision and not anyone else's.
Yeah.
And so I think that was important, in that, like, that was such a low stress decision. I mean, obviously it was like you had to think about it a lot and pray about it, but it was such a comfortable decision to make, you know, because, like, I had put it in God's hands before anyone else's.
Yeah. So how do you know that this was the right decision? Like, is there a sense of peace? Like, what does that look like for you?
Was
it a burning bush? Did a donkey?
Dude, that would have been cool. I think you can just kind of feel when you haven't been growing in a while. And whenever I was thinking about this, God, like, reminded me a lot of college and how, like, that independence was, and how much I grew, like, living far away from everything. And so, like, He kind of reminded me of that, and I think it was a combination of, like, seeing the growth that could happen if I went to Texas, and also seeing, like, the lack of growth that I was having in South Carolina. And it wasn't anyone's, like, fault or anything like that. Like, no one was, like, holding me back, but it was just, like, because I'd been in the same place and I was in my comfort zone, I was just in, like, a cycle, you know? And, like, that cycle was not a very good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good, man. Very nice. I feel like for me, I kind of do the same thing. Like, I will just kind of sit and, like, all right, God, like, this is, like, it's not my life. Like, it's your life. So what would you have me do as your servant? Because that's what we are first. And so, yeah, like that. I think for me, it's more difficult for the fast decisions that need to happen, like, immediately, and they're kind of big, you know?
Yeah, that is true.
But even then, it's just like God is not surprised that this just popped up. You know, like, if someone was like, hey, do you guys want to fly to Italy tomorrow? I'll pay for all your flights and everything. Come and stay for a month, blah, blah, blah. Like, we have a day to make the decision, probably less, because we got to start packing and stuff. And so, just, like, remembering, like, there's nothing to be anxious about, nothing to be worried about. And God's right with you, and He's reliable. Like, He's a good Father, He's trustworthy. And so He's not surprised by it. And so just trusting Him, and I think, like, that time in prayer, and then, of course, like, the wisdom and counsel from others. I think it's so helpful, so important to have that, like, the counselors and people on your side. And then there's I think one of the most difficult decisions is when you feel like you have to go against like what counselors and advisors are saying. Like, I would imagine a lot of people in your life were kind of like, I mean, you've talked about it, you know, like you tell someone like, hey, I'm moving away, I'm not gonna make much money, and we're just gonna do YouTube videos every day. They kind of look at you like a little bit crazy. I had that yesterday, running into a friend at the grocery store. I'm like, yeah, like we're doing YouTube videos. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things ever, and because they're so kind about it most of the time. You know, they're like so supportive, but you could just see it behind their eyes. Like, I'm really curious where these guys are going to be in a year from now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like maybe you should go get a real job and let this thing go.
It's so funny,
but I don't think there'd be many people who would say like, yeah, it's a great idea. Other than someone who's gonna go, well, have you asked the Lord? Like, how's that been? And so you said that's kind of how your parents were, of like, you know, we support you, whichever way you go. Where's the Lord leading you? And so, yeah, that's really awesome,
dude. And like I was listening, or we were at church like 2 weeks ago this was at the church in Atlanta for the camp. So like we went to church on Sunday, and then Monday like we drove to the camp. So we were all just like there together, and he was teaching it like on like discernment, like with God. And he was like decisions shouldn't be a scary thing. And I think that they like sometimes they come off as scary. It's easy to be like terrified of them, but they're such a blessing. And dude, he said this one thing that like, I mean, like, in my mind, I went nuts about. But he was like, we're called to be obedient in the black and white and faithful in the unknown, you know?
Ooh.
Yeah. And it was so
dude,
good,
that's fire.
Yeah. It was so good. It was just so, like, reassuring. Like, if we know for sure this is what God is calling us to do, like, we'll say yes. You know, and that's, like, the obedience in the black and white. Yeah. And then if it's just an unknown thing, like, we just have to be faithful. You know, not knowing what's going to happen, not knowing if this is the right thing, but dude, I thought that was a really strong point.
Yeah, that's really good
that he made.
Like, I want to write that down. Like,
well, we have it.
That's good. Well, Cruz, we're on the way to open up an acai cafe, and you've never had acai before. Are you excited, Cruz?
I am stoked. I'm also hungry.
Well, that's good, because where we're going has acai.
I'm excited for that. I'm excited for that.
Dude, and like we get there and there's like no acai.
Where would it go?
Dude, they like grew legs and like ran away. Dude, and then we like see the acai like on the sidewalk, like running back home.
Bro, what's crazy is for like the first 10 minutes of this car ride, I didn't know I had my seat warmer on, so my butt is sweating.
Yeah,
bro.
I put that bad boy on for you.
I hate it, bro. I used to always do that to my friends too, which is funny. It's almost like it's